Do you ever feel like you're flying blind in your business? You know, being in business can be a pretty lonely journey at the best of times, but sometimes trying to understand your financial statements and what they mean and what they're trying to tell you and how you're going to use it. It's a bit like someone's thrown you into the cockpit of a big jet airliner and said, okay, fly it from here, and you kind of got no idea what's going on. Today's video, we're going to look at two things that are going to help you really start to understand how to pull it all together. Two of the most powerful things that humans learn and grow by. So let's get into it. So the two things that humans learn and understand best are, first of all, is with stories. You know, ever since we've been kids, our parents have read us stories. We go back through history. Stories are all about history. We go back to cave paintings and all those sorts of things. Stories are such an important way for people to transfer information. So we're going to be using stories today with your financial statements to help you understand more of it. The second thing that humans love is games. Okay, we love to play sports. We love to win the game. We like to play the game. Whether it's board games or whatever, we're going to rip into that today and use games as a way to help you read your financial statements so that you know what's going on for it. First of all, we're going to be looking at the scoreboard, which is your profit and loss and your cash statement. And then we're going to look at the story that the balance sheet is trying to tell you. So that hopefully we can get you a happy ending and also win the game. Hey guys, my name is Brad Flynn and I'm the author of Find Your Cash and also Find Your Ideal Employee. If you like some of my stuff, subscribe down below, like the channel, and you'll see there's some free downloads if you also want to get involved with me in that way. Let's go. Now I mentioned the comparison between flying in a plane in a cockpit and being in business for a really interesting reason. See, I'm actually learning to fly as well. And when I first got in and started learning what all the dials and all the instruments were, it was very confronting and almost very overwhelming. So it can be a lot like that when you're a business owner. So you've got all of these dials you can be looking at. But unfortunately, most business owners only ever look at one dial. Cash, the fuel gauge. And there's a whole bunch of other things that we can be looking at that are going to give us some valuable information. Now, what I've learned as I've gone flying along now, I'm now up to a stage where I'm actually doing solo circuits, is that by becoming more and more comfortable and looking at the cockpit more regularly and knowing what I should be looking for, I've been able to now fly solo and without crashing the plane, which is kind of really handy. So part of your process in being able to understand what your dials in your business or your financials are telling you is to be able to quickly look at them and then make a decision about what your action should be. So we're going to look at what some of those things are today. And then as you progress over time, the more you're looking at these things and you're understanding what they're telling you, the better you're going to get at making decisions. So let's look at our first. Let's do a quick review of what our profit and loss statement is telling us and how we're going to use that as we're making decisions in our game. So now if we go with our analogy of using sports or games as a metaphor for our business, first thing we're going to talk about is your scoreboard. Now, if you've seen some of my videos before, I talk about the profit and loss being like a scoreboard for your business. Essentially, the profit and loss statement gives you an idea of how well you've been running your business. And if you're making profit, then that's a good result. It means you're running your business properly. Make sure you don't get profit and cash mixed up, which is what a lot of people can do sometimes. So check out some of my other videos where I've covered these topics off. So let's fundamentally go back to some basics here about your scoreboard. So in business, we've got our assets. So our assets might be our team members, it might be machinery, it might be software, it might be other sorts of IP, but what our goal with the business is to take those assets and turn them into revenue. So we're going to go out and sell to the marketplace so that we can get some money coming back in. Now what we've got to do is turn the revenue into profit. So if we go to the scoreboard analogy, if we're talking about a game, whoever has the most profit at the end of the day is the winner. So on our scoreboard analogy, the bottom line here, the profit is like the score. So, you might have a home team and an away team. If our home team's got a higher profit, then they've won the game. So our object here is to make good profit, okay? To run the business efficiently. So that gives us a shot of a window in the past for 30 days usually of how well we've actually played the game. Then what we're going to be doing then is turning the profit into cash. Okay, so making sure that we're playing a good game is about having a profitable business first and foremost. So we've got to look at these elements in here, what our expenses are. Are we using them effectively? If we go back to the game, let's say we've got a team of players. Are we putting the right people in the right places on the game at the right time to turn that revenue into profit or to turn those activities on the scoreboard into points and win the game? Now, the other thing, as I said, is profit and cash are different. we've got to turn the profit into the cash. So if the team has won the game on the day, that might be like the amount of money that's been flowing in the stadium. So we're going to be looking at the cash in that context. So ticket prices, if your team is playing well and winning lots of games, then there's going to be more tickets, so we're going to have more cash. They might be buying more food in the business. They might be at the stadium. They might be buying more merchandise. They might be buying season tickets. All of those special things there that if we're playing a good game and our profits are good, then our cash is also likely to be good. But just remember, profit's not actual cash. They're two very different things. If your business financials are still a bit confusing, check out the link down below. There's a free small business financials course you can do. Click on, it's free. You can do it in 30 minutes a day for 7 days or longer, so as you can really start to understand what the business styles are and what they're trying to tell you. So we've looked at the scoreboard, okay? How are we playing the game? How well are we turning that money, the profits in our business? How are we creating them? Now, let's bring in the story side of it. Humans love to learn through stories. And the way we do it is we take information that we already know and have in our brain, and then we bring something new in that we can relate the two of them, join them together, and come up with some new learning. So in this instance here, we're going to be looking at the balance sheet as a story of how the business has been growing. One of the most important things that a lot of business owners don't do is study the trends in their business. Look at the historical graphs and lines and what they're actually telling you. So it's really important to know what the history has been looking like so that you can have a better idea of predicting the future. So your balance sheet is like a series of snapshots of your business over time. It might be from when you started in your bedroom, to when you went into the garage, it got a bit bigger, to when you went into your first retail shop, to when it went to wherever as you're going along. That's how we use the balance sheet to see that our business is actually growing or not. So our balance sheet can be thought of a bit like the ladder in a competition. You know, week 1, who were the winners and losers? Week 2, who were the winners and losers? So that's like your snapshot, your balance shot, as you're going along week by week with your game. Are you on top of the ladder or are you falling down? All these different weeks are now cumulatively adding up to give us what the series of snapshots have brought us to today. You know, are you going to be in the Super Bowl at the end of the season, or are you going to pick up the wooden spoon for coming last? So whenever I'm looking at information like this, I look at the profit and loss for the last month, the last quarter, the last year, and the last sort of 3 years. And what I'm wanting to see is, what are the trends? So when I'm looking at it, I might do some graphs of what the profits have been. There might be some fixed expenses that I want to graph and look at, cost of goods in particular, gross margin, so that I can see what those trends have been as the business has been going along. Similarly, what I want to look at is the same sort of thing for the balance sheet. How's our cash been traveling? Do we have more? Do we have less? What are our payable days looking like? What are our receivable days looking like? They're the main things that I'm looking on the balance sheet. Cash, what we owe, and who owes us. Also, the loans and stuff that we're looking at, are they going up or are they going down? A lot of the other information on your balance sheet is more relevant for help with your accountant when you're doing your tax and writing off depreciation, different bits and pieces, so that that's their specialty. But if you're looking at those 3 areas, cash, what you owe, and what's owed to you, they're the main things I'm looking at, and from a historical trend perspective. On your profit and loss, I'm also looking for what those big higher cost items are, and if they're going up or if they're going down, and depending on the time frame. Now, once I've got a good big picture of all this, and sometimes I might graph out all these different areas, now it's time to go and start to talk to some of the people who are responsible for these figures. Who owns what number in your business? In other words, what are the KPIs? Who's responsible for sales? Who's responsible for getting debts in? Who's responsible for paying our bills? Who's responsible for making sure our team are doing effective work? All of those sorts of things are where we get the foundation to start having some conversations. So if we go back to my analogy of floating along, if my altitude in the plane, that is, if my altitude drops too low, then I know I need to nose it up and give it a bit more power to make it go up. In your business, if you've seen the revenues coming down, then who do you need to talk to? What's the conversation that you need to have? Do you have someone who's underperforming? Making sure that you've got the right people on your bus doing the right thing is absolutely critical. If you're not sure about what your KPIs are, check out some of my other videos and to find out what's going on. Now we've got those numbers clear and that accountability sorted, let's see what happens with our figures in the next few months. Like I said, at least once a week, you want to be having a quick check-in on your profit and loss to make sure it's okay. Depending on your cash flow, if you're in a cash tight position, you want to be sometimes maybe watching your cash flow daily, depends on how bad it is. And then your balance sheet, probably at least once a month to track where you are with your debtors and your payables. They're the main things. As you get more and more familiar with what these figures are telling you, you're going to be able to make better decisions on your business. You're going to have more profit. You're going to have more happier staff, more happier clients, and it's generally going to be a win-win for everyone involved. In my opinion, if you go into business, like I said at the start, business is an intellectual sport. It's the ultimate personal development playground. As a business owner, you've got nowhere to hide. You take full responsibility for your business. You've got amazing tools like YouTube where you can look things up. You can follow my videos down below. You can buy books, you can do courses, you can do webinars, all of those sorts of things. To not understand how these figures work and what they're trying to tell you is not really an excuse for if your business isn't going so well. So jump on, make the most out of the different resources. Subscribe down below. I do a weekly video with information on businesses to help business owners. Like what you see. And of course, there's a bunch of free resources down below if you want to dive into those. In the meantime, have a profitable week, enjoy your game, and I hope your story's going on track.